Hey, what's good up? What's going on, good people? Listen, this is Increase. I am your host, Alpheus Gibbs. Listen, I know we haven't been on for a while. If you guys haven't caught that story, go back to our previous video. It's going to kind of give you guys some insight and some updates on what was going on with us here and just some of the things that we're working on as a brand. So, I've been really just trying to come up with different things to kind of hit you guys with on a one-on-one basis, but I really wanted to just talk about something that I don't think a lot of times we really talk about. And I feel really comfortable about sharing this because again, this is something that and I'm just adjusting this camera. So, a lot of times we don't really talk about it, but it's something that we definitely need to talk about, right? And that is what happens when you finally get the blessing that you want. You finally open up the business, really that untold portion of the story, right? Because oftentimes we always, we praying that God bless us, we praying that God moves, we're asking God for various things. And the thing that I've learned is that we prepare for receiving it, but we don't prepare for the life that we need to have in order for us to keep it and maintain what God gives us. And so, for instance, we always use the cliche or talk about, when a person is getting married, like they prepare for the wedding, but they don't prepare for like the life after the wedding. They don't, they're so focused on getting down the aisle and having this elaborate wedding and this elaborate reception that we really don't talk about and share what happens behind the scenes or 5 years later or 10 years later. That's even when it comes to even certain jobs, right? Because you'll want a certain job and you'll pray and begin to fast and you're seeking the face of God about it. You have your church family praying for you to get it, and then you finally get it, but we don't ever hear anything after that. Same even when it comes to starting a business, or just doing anything in life, even when it comes to even having children. And I think a lot of times it's that fear of sounding ungrateful or it's not being what it cracked up to be or what you thought it was going to be, right? So I want to just break into that real fast. So, starting a business is great, or being starting a church is great, excellent, but we don't talk about how that stuff affects your family, or you don't talk about the mental strain and stress that is placed upon you and those around you when you get said things. Even when it comes to a new car, like people are so wanting a flash and wanting a nice car that they don't even think about the maintenance or what kind of gas goes into it, or just the backlash of you getting something that your peers or people who you're not favorable around, how they're going to react to it. And initially you may say, well, I don't care about that, or that stuff fazes me, what people have to say. But that stuff continuously keep being spoken, that stuff begin to bother you. That stuff begins to really get up under your skin. It really begins to, even reveal the hearts of people around you. So I'm gonna take it step by step, right? So you get what you want from God, you're doing it, you're living it. Okay, now what? The now what is really in the space and in the capacity of, did what you asked for satisfy you not only in that moment, but did it really satisfy, what you needed? So you may have started a business, or you may become a leader in the church, or you may have gotten married, but was that the real answer to what was going on in your life? Because a lot of times we ask God for things, we seek after things, we go after things that only quench that moment that you get it. And then after that, now you're frustrated because now you have to deal with the maintenance, and now you have to deal with possibly even multiplying that which you have to continue to go forward. So I look at it like this, even when you get a job, for instance, and now you got the job that you've always wanted. You're working in the office, but you didn't think about one. you may have just gotten the education just enough to get you in the door or get you the position, but when it comes to actually being able to maintain and even exceed the expectations of those above you, you didn't really think about that. And so that stress weighs on you even the more. Now you got to not only deal with the office politics, now you also got to deal with the stress of said position and how it progresses as the days, weeks, and months go by. Because even the most mundane of jobs always come with some kind of situations or problems or things that need to be answered. That if you had worked your way there, then you possibly would be able to answer it. But because you really wasn't, you kind of just took a really big leap. Now you got to deal with that kind of stuff. You're married, right? And you've been so accustomed to dating to now you got to switch your mind from dating to now actually being in a committed relationship to death do you part. And so now that you're angry, how long are you going to let your anger reside in you? How long are you going to allow yourself to continue to have the same kind of attitude and mouth off the way you did when you were dating? Because when you were dating, you had the option of leaving. But now that you're married, y'all got to talk it out. You got to work it out because the two are no longer two, but they're one. And so now you got to work out issues that normally, if this would have happened when you were dating, you could have just parted ways and everything would have been gravy. But now that you're married, you got to work on that. Now you got to begin to consider some things. Now, instead of it being irreconcilable, now you got to begin to reconcile. You may even have to, apologize, even if you feel like you're not wrong. So there's so much into it, not just in marriage, but just in life that we really don't even pay attention to, or we don't tell the full story of. And so we have people around us, we have even our children who don't understand what it is to have what they have and to maintain what they have to maintain. And so I just wanted to share that not so much as a message, but really just begin to speak on it because I don't think a lot of people do. Even when it comes to owning a business, everyone is like, "Oh, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur," and that's great. Okay, so you start the business, all right, but then what do you do when the business isn't generating revenue like you thought it would, and that your 9 to 5 was actually, something that you should have held on to a little bit longer until your business grew and was able to take care of you and your family? Or what do you do when the business takes off tremendously and now it's all hands on deck? You need more help. Hiring is really hard. And so now you're like, okay, dang, I'm gonna have to put my family in the game because right now I'm not finding anybody who can help me to maintain this business. So now you're putting them in a workplace that they probably didn't even want to be in, or you didn't even think your business was going to take off in the manner that it did. You know what I'm saying? Or how much time it's going to take you away from your family, because owning a business is not a 9 to 5, and a lot of times there really are no off days because you're always working, you're always developing, you're always trying to um, get ahead of the game. And so when you find yourself in a niche wherein you're working and you're enjoying the business, you're enjoying what you do, but you're gonna have to miss football games or a soccer game, or little vital things that typically you would say as a parent you don't want to miss, but you're running a business and you have employees that need to be make sure that they're paid, and you got bills, not just light water and whatever, and supplies, but you got payroll and you got insurance and you got taxes. So you got to make sure that you're doing everything possible so that your business is not only successful for today, but that it remains open for tomorrow. These are the things that we don't really talk about. We don't talk about those times when the supplier says, "Well, hey, I ran out, or we double booked, or we're running short on supplies, so we're not going to be able to get our order out to you." And now you got to communicate that to your customers. Now you got to communicate to them that you possibly didn't even plan for this to happen, but you may have to give a refund. You may now have to begin to work out some things with your customer base, with your media team and everything else, to let everyone know, hey, I'm not neglecting you or whatever. Your orders is just going to take a little bit longer. And, how are you going to set up if someone asks for a refund? So you know what I mean? So these are the things that we don't talk about, not only in business, but even in our personal life. How does your children feel about you, marrying this person? Or how does your children feel about you pastoring this church? Or how does your family feel about, you starting this business? Have you really prepared them for, okay, this is how you're gonna have to handle social media? Like if you have an issue, you can't handle it like your friends or your colleagues or whatever, because I got a brand, or we're in this church, so I got to handle it a little bit differently than say somebody else who is out here in the streets or whatever. These are a lot. Again, these are some of the things that um are not often spoke about. It's kind of like yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen like that, but it really does. And one of the things that is so detrimental, especially to certain communities, is that we don't plan for those things and we don't think about those things. And because we don't plan for them, we find ourselves playing catch up throughout the entirety of it all. And with increase, I wanted to bring light to that. I want to bring light to you guys when it comes to, and we'll start with relationships. What do you do when you're in a relationship and the person you're in a relationship with doesn't want you? How do you handle that? How do you prepare a conversation with your children about a possible split? You know what I mean? How do you prepare your church family, if you're a pastor, for something like that? How do you prepare even your friends to say, hey, me and so are parting ways? These are conversations that you're going to have to have. How do you prepare the rest of your life? Because now that person isn't going to be playing a significant role in your life or in the same capacity, right? Let's say, you even own a business and you're going through a divorce. How do you handle those things? These are some of the untold spoken parts of life that we really need to explore, and we need to talk about it and begin to share about it, because divorce can be ugly and it can also be a beautiful thing. Beautiful as in freeing, beautiful as in um like a regenesis, but it can be ugly as in bickering over children, bickering over money, bickering over properties and things like that. There's so much that needs to be talked about and need to be shared about. Even when it comes to, let's say, even your job, and they pose to you, well, this position is available, but now we want you have to move to a different location across country or whatever, or maybe even um you may need to move international. You may need to move in a different country. So now you got to communicate that possibly with your spouse if you're married, or communicate this with your children if you have them. Communicate this even with your leadership, your pastor. Communicate these things with people that your friends. These are the untold part for you pursuing after what you want. The premise of this podcast today is really to get my audience to think. I want to get you to think about the other aspects of what it is that you ask things for God, or you begin to pursue after things, the other side of that coin that you may not even think about, or you may right now brush it off as if it's nothing. But the truth of the matter is that it's something that you really need to not only discuss it, but you also need to consider it. Consider the fact that your brand, your business is not going to remain local, and that one video that you do will go viral. How are you going to handle, or have you even thought about handling your, not just your success, but handling the people who will now try to bring up old stories about you, or try to dredge up old tweets that you posted years ago or whatever? How are you going to handle and deal with individuals who now all of a sudden they're your relative and they want money from you. How are you going to handle being around people who used to be really close to you as a friend, but they themselves, through life and through situations and choices, have moved themselves into an associate position? They're an affiliate, they're an associate of yours. They're no longer in the position of a friend. And so now they see that you're successful, and now they try to rekindle a relationship. It's like, well, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to entertain those individuals, or are you going to keep them as an associate, keep them far away from you for whatever your reasons are? These are some of the conversations that we got to have. These are some of the conversations you got to have even with your family. You know, when you go viral, especially more than once, now your children are affected, because when they go to school, they're going to be talking about that kind of stuff, because we are in a social media age. Everybody's on social media. Your grandmother is on social media. People who thought it was just a fad to text now have email addresses, and now they're on TikTok, and they're on Instagram, and they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and all of these other things. So these are conversations that we got to begin to navigate and begin to have that conversation. Have you talked to your child about how to handle being online, whether it's playing the game or just navigating Facebook, for instance? What information do they need to share, and what things they need to keep to themselves? How to engage in those things. These are the untold story. It's the untold part of life. This is the untold part of even when it comes to business. You know what I'm saying? People are like, well, I'm gonna go out and get an LLC, and I'm gonna go out and get a building and all of this other stuff, and I need office chairs, and I need storage, and I can use my EIN number, my LLC, to get a car and all of this other stuff. But you haven't produced no product. You haven't even figured out who is your target audience. You just went out and spent all of your savings, all of your income tax money, whatever, on a hope that things is going to happen. And then you start thinking about, oh, well, my cousin going to buy this, and my sisters, they going to support me in this, and my brother's going to support me in this, and my, uncles and all of this stuff. And you got, and my friends. And then when you look up and you start trying to sell a product or even a service, they're possibly and more than likely are the last people that will purchase or even support you. And so you got to think beyond your family and friends when you open a business. And you got to think beyond what they show you on social media is a business owner. Because if they're on social media all the time, then that's their brand, that's their business. And that's their service that they're providing, is being in front of you, sharing information that sometimes has already been shared by 20, 30 other people. And so they have to come up with a gimmick or a way to get your eyes to their content. But those who are true business owners, who may not even have a brick and mortar, but they may be working out of their living room or their kitchen or out of their garage, they're very seldom on social media. They're out there producing a product, or they're out there perfecting their service, and they're out there marketing by flyers and by word of mouth. They're out there making sure that they make the connections and the networking in the community events that are happening where you live, where they live, and they're out there meeting with other business owners, making connections so that they can take their brand to the next level. All business owners are not on social media with the camera in front of them talking about whatever thing that they can produce in front of you, but there are more than likely the people who are owning businesses are trying to make it happen. They're the ones who are sitting in front of their computer looking at a spreadsheet, trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills, pay the bills of the business, have a little bit enough to pay possibly something that's going on at home, and work their 9 to 5 so that they can get their business up to a place wherein that business can now take care of their home. And then they still have to love on their spouse and be there for their children and all of this other stuff. Being a business owner is very stressful. It requires you to really ask yourself, is this really something that I want to pursue after? And it really, the first 5 years of your business really determines if you truly are, if you truly want this thing, or is it just something that you saw online and you have a hobby that you do on a, inconsistent basis, and it's something that you just want to do just to pass the time, versus those who really want to go after it. I say that even when it comes to marriage, there are many who love the idea of being a husband or being a wife, but the commitment, and not even the commitment of saying, I'm not going to go out and cheat, the commitment to say, I'm going to leave myself vulnerable. And while I'm vulnerable, I also understand that I'm leaving myself vulnerable to a person who is just as flawed as I am, in hopes that even if they hurt me, that their hurt is something that, even when they recognize it, that they're going to come in and try to mend my hurt, or mend the brokenness that is there that they have caused, or that someone else has caused. Being married causes you to really think and be selfless, because you're no longer just your own, but you're knitting yourself together with another person. And so it's not always about what you want, but it's what's best for the couple, for the unit, for the home, for everything that goes out before you. And so some people are not ready for that. Some people are not ready for the times when you may feel like you are absolutely 100% right. But here is the kicker. I would rather have a healthy relationship than to be right in every argument that I'm in. Because even when I'm right, that rightness can cause harm and cause hurt. But I can sit down and go, you know what? I may not need to say this right now, because that person is not at a place where they can receive this level of truth, or they're not able to receive where they personally are. And so they got to take a mental or a spiritual time to develop, so that they can understand and perceive and receive everything that is being said and projected to me. And so, one of the things that I try to share with people is that this is the untold part of life. This is the untold part of marriage. This is the untold part of running a business. Even when it comes to leadership, whether you're a pastor or you're a manager on a job, there's so much that goes into it beyond just having the figures in front of you, or standing in front of the congregation and preaching. That you have the souls of the people in your hand, and that you have to watch over their soul and make sure that you are giving them the raw word of God, but giving it in a manner that they're able to take it and apply it to their life. If you're a manager, you're trying to not only not just lead them as in the day-to-day task, but looking out among them to see who's the leader that you can develop in them, so that when it's time for them to matriculate to the next place, that they are ready and that they are prepared. And so I think a lot of times we do people a disservice because we don't give them the other side of what goes on in life, what goes on in a marriage, what goes on in a ministry, what goes on in a business, right? Just because you're on paper, right? Or you may, your business is flowing, doesn't mean that you've actually even paid yourself. Because by the time you paid your employees and paid the taxes for them. And if you offer insurance, paid the insurance or your portion of the insurance as the business owner. And then by the time you make sure that the rent or the mortgage is paid for the building, and you paid the loans or whatever for so that you could buy the equipment, and you paid your suppliers, and you done all of the paying the people so that they can get the mail out, or distribute whatever it is, or even taking care of the company vehicles so that they can go out and provide the service that you provide, and all of that. Sometimes you're left with literally nothing, and more than likely you're in the negative when it comes to even trying to pay yourself. So we look at these things outwardly and we go, oh, this is something that I want to do, and I know I have the skill set to do it. But these social media people are not telling you, and they're not revealing to you the ugly side of it, or the challenging side of marriage, or the challenging side of owning a business, or the challenging side of being a pastor, the challenging side of upgrading. And so you find that a lot of people, they become very cynical. They find themselves being very bitter because they have tried it and it didn't work out the way that they had it planned in their head. And so now they try to discourage as many people as possible not to move ahead because they feel like if it didn't work for me, it's not going to work for them. And that's not always true. So we have to create a balance, or try to achieve balance as much as possible when we give the story of what it is that we do. My friend, she has a very successful business, and I say successful because she's still running it and it's still flowing. But she talks about, turning lemons into lemonade. Sometimes you have lemons and no water. Sometimes you have water and you got lemon peels. Are you able to articulate what you have into something that is viable, something that people can buy into? You may be a great person, but right now you may not be in the mental space to be married. You may be a great, absolutely wonderful person, but right now your focus and your attention to detail is not there. So when it comes to running a business, you may have the gift of gab and you may be able to start it. You may even be able to expand it initially, but it's about longevity. It's really about taking that idea and shaping it into a business that can last 10, 15 years. It's really about understanding that there's an ugly side to every beautiful side. Before you get beautiful flowers, there's a part where you have to break up the ground and you have to put some nutrients in it that don't smell good, that it fits in your naked hand, may not even feel good. You may have to go and buy some worms to help aerate the ground when you're not there, and you have to water it even though there's no seed in the ground, because you're doing what is called preparation. So today I just wanted to encourage you to prepare for whatever it is that you're asking God for, or prepare yourself for whatever it is that you're pursuing after. Because again, when it comes, it may not even satisfy the very thing that you thought it would. And it may even cause you more stress because you're not prepared for it. Have you prepared yourself for the next level? Have you prepared yourself to really give yourself wholly over to the project, or the thing that you're desiring? It's one thing to desire it, it's one thing to go after it. It's something else when you have done all that you can to prepare. And so when trouble comes, because it will, you're ready because you did the preparation work behind it. One thing that I loved about Steve Jobs is that he didn't just hire people who were educated enough to do the job. He wanted to see that they themselves were creative, that they themselves were people who could give themselves over to it, that they were problem solvers, as well as people who were creative in their work and in what they had to do. And because of that, Apple was able to create and manifest many different things that has benefited the world. And so I say that to say this to you, excuse me, you who are watching, is that you don't want to just get into a position, or get yourself into a place where you're just barely making it. You're just barely doing whatever it is. But you have literally uh, put yourself in a place where you can be educated, where you can find yourself around other creatives, that you're around yourself with other business owners, other leaders who are doing what you're doing, and some who are doing it at a greater level than where you are. Because when you do that, when you put yourself in those positions and places, then you're able, that when something comes, that you have seen so much dealing with them and interacting with them, that when something does come, you're able to pull from all of those experiences. My godfather calls it integration, and the corporate world calls it integration. You begin to integrate many different ideas and concepts to solve the problem that is in front of you. Because it's not that it can't be done, it's that you've never seen it done in this manner. And so it's going to take some unconventional means to bring it to pass, to answer the question or answer the situation that is in front of you. You can handle anything that comes your way. The thing is that you can't allow yourself to get overwhelmed by what's in front of you. Stand back and begin to look at the situation in front of you and begin to now pull from all of your experiences, not looking at yourself as less than, not looking at yourself as ill equipped, but saying, for where I am right now, I am equipped to handle what's coming my way. And literally begin to pull from all of those experiences and begin to answer and begin to handle whatever situations are in front of you. And so, we're still eating tomatoes. So, I just wanted to encourage you all. That was my kids and my nephew. I just wanted to encourage you all with that, so that you know that you're able to do it, you're able to handle it. But there's another part to life, and there's another part to the blessing that is coming your way. And I believe that if and when you continuously pursue after those things, you will find yourself in a greater place doing great things, because you are ready. Listen, I'm gonna do a part two come Monday, and I'm gonna share some other things with you about the untold part, so that you have some tools to use to take care of business. Listen, this is Increase. I am your host, Alpheus Gibbs. I appreciate each and every one of you. You all have an amazing day and a super amazing weekend. God bless.